Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to another living world of darkness. Rage across New York. Werewolf venue. This scene is taking place outside the cub cabins that are now empty as all cubs have moved on to Cleoth and the den parents have gone off to do whatever it is they do when they don't have cubs. So at the moment we find Saoirse and Alonna having come to meet with Jacob over the unsightly incident that has occurred that Alonna and Saoirse may have witnessed a portion of. So that's where this scene will begin.
Hmm. Oh. Jacob isn't as late as the man playing him. Uh, he arrives just a few minutes after the two Fianna, and kind of casually waves on over and gestures them to come inside if they're not so already. At which point he takes a very it's almost, I mean, it's not exactly a complex layout, but he kind of just makes his way casually over to the to a small table in the main room. It's kind of like the chill room where all the cubs used to go. There's even some beanie bags there, but Jacob doesn't sit there because fuck those beanie bags. He takes out something out of the fridge, and you're not sure whether it's edible or not. Jesus. And he will ask whether they like tea or coffee.
I'm fine at the moment. Splash of water at most, I think, for myself.
Saoirse just pipes up. Tea, of course, thank you.
Alrighty then. Tea and water coming right up. And he just makes them their preferred beverages, puts on the table, sits down. Alright, so we should probably get through this as quickly as possible. If you could each answer the question separately, that would be appreciated. Otherwise, your witness statements are going to get entangled, and that doesn't really help anyone.
Alright.
Saoirse nods.
Alright. Let's start from the beginning. Could you explain to me exactly what happened on the 1st of April and the lead up to the event?
Alright, let's see. I heard about from the spirits that there was a fairy coming, so I'm thinking that they'd been invited and there was something going on. I went to speak with one of the fae folk I know, and they said that it was a holiday for them, so I asked for guidance on how to handle that. So I came, barring gifts offered to me by this fae folk, as she recommended. There were others there, some with stuff in bags, some with stuff already laid out. So I added my chiminage, as it were, I suppose, to our guest. And a kinfolk arrived, had a box, 2 boxes technically, set the one down, and began reading off a card telling us that Perry was pleased and that they were glad that we came bearing gifts. And I was getting the feeling that something was up. I forget that those who are born homemade occasionally learn that that was a day of pranks. Didn't register to me myself, so having a feeling that there was a prank about to be happening, I took the box that was offered by the kinfolk. He then boxed up the other stuff that we had left for him, and I opened the box facing Teresa just in case it was like one of those spring snakes and came bursting out. And turns out it was a cake, and it was from Will saying, "April Fools, you've been pranked." Mostly, I just laughed to myself. So I took out my knife. The kinfolk thought I was coming after him, and I cut slices of cake for folk. And some folks talked about smashing the cake in Will's face next time they got a chance, and didn't think much of it. And then Teresa and Felix left because they had other stuff to do. And that's pretty much it for myself.
He nods. He looks like he's writing all of this down. Or rather, Tapis is writing all of this down. Um,
Saoirse waits for the writing to finish before she gives her account. Probably give a minute or two. If you're ready, I'll answer the question.
Jacob nods, takes this into account. Looks at Saoirse for her version of events.
So I'd heard about this fairy that was coming to visit, and I, being new to the sept, didn't realize that fae folk aren't really allowed here. Uh, so I didn't think much of it. And being Fianna, I was kind of excited to meet a fairy. Um, so from, you know, old myths and legends, I gathered that, the fae folk like things that are of some sort of value or shiny, shiny objects. And that's what I recommended to Teresa that she bring because she had no idea. So she asked me for advice, so I told her just something shiny should work. So she went out and bought a necklace, and I offered a coin that I'd had for a long time. It belonged to my grandfather, um, and a pressed four-leaf clover, a little cliche look of the Irish, and offered that up. And I was also a little bit suspicious to see a kinfolk introducing it, but you know, was kind of caught up in the excitement and whatnot. Um, after uh, Alonna opened the cake and we saw that it was a prank, I got a little bit upset, but for the most part, just angry at myself for being pranked. And I joked about taking some of the cake to smash into Will's face the next time I saw him, but I knew that would be a while because of him being ostracized and whatnot. And Radiant Spear was thinking the same thing, that he'd want to smash some of the cake into Will's face. And I thought that maybe he was taking it about as lighthearted as I was. Other people had offerings as well. I couldn't really see what some of them were. Some of them were in a bag or whatever. And that was really the extent of it. For that day was just most of us mad at ourselves for being pranked by someone who's not a ragabash. And but then, I heard about a couple of days later about what happened afterward. That's probably for another question for you.
I see. You said other people made offerings. And I believe you said you recommended Teresa bring a necklace.
I said something shiny. She went out and bought a necklace.
Hmm. Did you see any of the other offerings that were made?
I saw Alonna's bag of glitter and whoopee cushions. Um, Mine, Teresa's. Uh, I know that Radiant Spear had a bag of something. Not exactly sure what it was.
I see. Sorry, Alana's, Teresa's, and
And Radiant Spear, she didn't see what his was, but that it was in a bag.
okay. Did you see him carrying a cage or anything like that? He kind of
She'll
motions as if it were a small cage.
she'll shake her head. And out of character, he never said anything about bringing a cage. And Saoirse has eidetic memory, so she would remember something like
Okay.
that.
I'm
I
just
did not
gonna.
see him carrying a cage, but I have found a cage, and I'm waiting for permission to do the awakening to see who placed the cage. It's currently in the hands of the right master.
Okay. Presumably your manipulation subterfuge is not above 7. That's Sisha. That's just truth of Gyring. I presume you're not lying.
No, she's not lying.
Yeah, Jacob would see the truth in the statement then. Yeah, and well, just truth of Gyring Alana's statement as well. Got a 10, so it's fine.
Alana's is 2, so for her minip sub.
Okay. Oh god.
um,
That's fine. Yeah, no, he sees that Alana is telling the truth as well. Then, that's good. He will
Out of
make
character, she hasn't done the awakening because I'm waiting to meet up with an ST to do it. It's just in the hands of the right master for the time being.
Okay.
After the right master told us what had happened and asked us to investigate, the bird spirits told me that the individual that had done it, I had seen him that day making an offering of him. So, with the information that was garnered from other theurges of it being a pale white hunter, kinda narrows down who it was, as the only person that I remember making an offering that wasn't clear was Radiant Spear, and you can't get much pale or whiter than him, even in the Irish.
So after the right master had announced the set totem had been violated, you did some investigation, and could you just repeat the? You made some tunages on bird spirits to discover who it was.
I tend to pay chiminage to the bird spirits daily, especially the ravens and doves up on the top of the Fianna castle. They said that they'd seen the fella. Oh, let me think for a moment. What was it explicitly that they said? It came out to that I'd seen the individual making the offering, even if I'd not understood what he was offering.
Radiant Spear was making. They'd seen him making an offering of.
I remember there was a bit of a song the way they told me when I asked the bird spirits. They said, "Cannot see, he can see. You can see. You saw. Oh yes, we saw. We saw. You saw." which for birds means that they're telling me that he has trouble with his vision, which Radiant Spear tends to have, but he's not blind, as in he can see, like I can see.
All right.
And I saw him, and they saw that I saw him, which tells me that the only other fella that was there was Felix, Rocks Your Socks, and for him to have caused this kind of desecration, I'd have wrung his neck myself. But he doesn't fit the other part of what the spirits have told us, with it being a pale white hunter.
Okay. I believe the timeline events is getting somewhat muddled. So you're told to investigate. You then page him to shoot bird spirits.
Aye. They
You
tell me that
found.
I'd seen the individual that did this the day that it happened.
Okay. And you found the cage after this.
Aye, as part of my investigations that day.
Can you tell me where and what and at what time?
I found it. The STs didn't tell me the exact location.
That's fine.
And
I'll just
let's
note it
see.
as you. If you're not lying, then it's fine.
The STs didn't specifically tell me where I found it, just that I found it.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's cool. I'll just note that OC is like you found it here and there. STs no.
And let's see, we'd started the search pretty early, so I'd say early mid morning, maybe 9 or 10. I usually get started on my morning rounds around 5, so the right master came called to us around 7. Started out with the spirits, and then I went searching for possible ways that to make sure that there were no traps left in case he had left all their traps out. Whoever the culprit was, we were pretty sure it was a man, because the spirits had said him when they referred to what had happened.
Right.
Once we do the rite of awakening, spirit of the trap can tell us, describe to us the person that placed it. Catch mice and rats. You can see Alana's like upset about this. Like she's kind of tensing her hands.
Hmm. OC, they've already noted that they gave the offerings at different times. Or did she like say she gave the offering that like they all gave you the offering at around the same time as the scene happened, so it all came at the same time?
Or
Yeah,
they
yeah, everybody put their stuff in the box about the same time. Like it was in the scene wasn't very long. It was a very short
Minutes.
exchange.
Okay, yeah, it's been noted. Yeah, I was just not sure if Jacob was going to ask a question because he wouldn't try and be that redundant about everything, but he will continue to be that redundant, as he'll say. Um, and you stated Teresa was there yourself. He kind of yourselves, and he just kind of with his two
aye.
fingers, just kind of.
Felix rocks your socks.
Hmm.
Radiant spear. Calls of Fury was there, but she was always keeping her distance.
Hmm.
I don't think she placed anything with others.
Nay, she didn't.
And I think that was about it on the kinfolk, which turns out to be one of Will's, I think.
It's. Do you know if anyone else offered anything? Was there anything in the box prior to either of you offering, making your own offerings?
Alana thinks. No, I think Saoirse and I were one of the first ones there. Nobody really started placing until I set the glitter down, the whiskey on the whoopee cushions. Then the others started putting their stuff together so that it was all kind of together so this our guest could see what we'd come offering them. He really did hunt them here. I specifically told him not to.
Um,
I told him and a number of other people the rules for the spirits of the sept when that new lupus arrived.
Shady
The
side up.
Ragabash. Aye, because I was telling her and I was making sure that the other new folk who are there with us, reading her, knew as well, leave the rats and cockroaches alone. And
Sorry, the first part of that sentence cut out. Who was
the
being
rats,
told to something about Radiant Spear being told to leave?
Radiant Spear, the new lass, Shady. I don't remember who else was there. There were several fairly new folk, so I figured I'd just reiterate it, make sure everybody had heard. I think I've beaten it into Saoirse's head most every morning. She follows me around.
And this took place before April Fool's Day.
I, at least, what was it, a week before? I don't know how long's Shady been here now. I think it was the week before.
I see. And you said Radiant Spear, just to clarify, Radiant Spear joked about smashing a cake in William's face.
Aye.
Aye, that he did.
He even took a slice of it. I thought he was just gonna eat it as he left.
Oh, he didn't eat the cake he took?
Not while I was there. I assumed he was gonna eat it while he was wandering off. Figured he had other things to do.
I see. There's a moment of pause from Jacob. as I just mull over my list of questions to see if any of them are even remotely relevant.
Had I known that he had killed rats and had a bag full of them, I'd have killed him there on the spot that day.
Speaking of the bag, it wasn't moving, was it?
Not that I saw. I didn't expect a moving bag, so I wasn't watching it. But I don't remember it moving.
There are claims of a mouse in a cage being found. If you have not seen it, however,
I've only found the one cage myself. There may have been others found.
it was claimed this was in the box.
There was no cage with a moving mouse that I saw.
Possibly could have been in the bag. Do you know how large the bag was?
Out of character, it was never specified how big it was. Like
That's fine.
Nelson was very vague about. He just said that he had a bag of rats or
You
mice.
can wing that shit. That's fine. You can just say it's like
About
this.
this
We'll
big.
just yeah about this big, and just
Yeah.
take it out into
I,
account.
okay. So yeah, Saoirse will, make a motion. It was probably a decent sized bag.
Yeah,
But she'll say, yeah, it was about yay big, and she'll, just move her hands around.
big enough to hold a bunch of dead rats.
Pretty much, yeah. Possibly a small cage.
You'd have to ask Will if there were actually any living mice in a cage when he got the stuff.
We know that there was one living mouse released.
Well, they weren't all killed then.
No, the mouse that was retrieved from the box has since been released back onto the set. He looks at his notepad again. I think that's all the questions I have. Do you have anything else you wish to add? Any other information? Was there any odd behavior from anyone on the scene? Or
I think Felix was the most irate out of folk about the pranking, but Teresa held him back and calmed him down, and then they left together. That was about it, though. That's the only uncharacteristic behavior. What I saw. Forlorn Judge Radiant Spirit is very. He doesn't have like a set behavior from the times I've seen him. There's always something off with him, so there's nothing different for that with his behavior that day. He was off like normal, whichever way he was off. If that makes sense. Like some days he's trying to be smooth and calm and cool. Other days he's like trying to bounce off the walls, and there's no telling like where he is in between there at any point.
I don't really know him well enough to speak to his character at all, but from what I've heard, he can be fairly erratic and act like the rules don't apply to him. He hasn't made a very good impression on a lot of people.
it's possible he could have been twice cursed as a Medis. It has been known to happen. It's possible he inherited mental illness in addition to his albinism.
She'll nod, as if that would make sense to her.
That's so putting him out of his misery may be the best for us and him.
I'm sure you're probably not looking for input on punishment, but she kind of hesitates for a moment. Giving him a chance to fall to the worm probably wouldn't be the best idea.
Philodox will be coordinating with Fierges later down the line as to a punishment that will both enforce the laws of the nation and the litany, as well as going some ways towards redeeming and earning the forgiveness of Great White Mouse, as spirits are the domain of Fierges. So there'll be some degree of cooperation there.
Of course, Raya.
He kind of he puts his thumb up and kind of thumbs back towards the Piso, and will state, I believe the Galliards are working on a tale for the occasion. A cautionary one, of course. And if you want to discuss deed names, he just kind of bobbles his head as if to not so subtly suggest that there should be a deed name for this deed of rat killing. As blunt can, as it were.
Saoirse thinks for a moment. I have actually thought about amending his name. There's been a few swirling around in my head. Radiant Fuck Up comes to mind for one of them. But maybe a disrespectful rat killer work too.
It's something worth mulling over with the other Galliards,
Aye?
considering Calls was there, and
I'll speak with her about it. We'll come up with something.
and to Pisa here, and my packmate actually, my beta tells Rich's Gold wishes to be involved. Of course, this is naturally something the whole sept wishes to involve itself in, considering the magnitude. Other than that, I thank you for your cooperation. I haven't seen any inconsistencies in your statements so far.
Thank you, Raya.
If there's anything else we can do, let us know.
If you could let me know when the Rite of Awakening comes down, and if you discover who in fact placed that cage, it would be appreciated. It would go a long way towards resolving the case.
Alright, I will.
Thank you. Jacob will get up, say, want anything more to drink? I know I could.
Yeah, I think it's time for whiskey now.
Ah, crap. I'm just gonna drown myself in tea, I think. If I was celebrating, it would be time for whiskey, but unfortunately I'm not celebrating. Help yourself, though.
Whiskey is more for morning at the moment.
Fair enough.
Anna will
And
get up and start making her way out.
And yes, Saoirse will follow.
Jacob
Wanting
will
Get away from the unpleasantries of the situation. She's like,
time to mourn on alcoholism. As Jacob will just say, kind of as a farewell, if they're walking out, we'll just say, thank you for arranging a meeting so quickly with me. It's been appreciated.
Might have gotten here sooner, but our duties tend to get in the way sometimes.
Understandable. Have a pleasant day.
Aye, you too, lad.
I believe with that, if no one has anything else to say, can end the scene.
Thank you, players, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. Good night.